Welcome back to another episode of the Four Downs Podcast, where we cover 4 trending NFL topics in 20 minutes or less. Today, we are joined by Draft America's Michael Seth, a guest that I'm really excited to have on finally. Michael, how are you doing today?
I'm good, John. I appreciate you having me on and looking forward to talking some football.
Good deal. We've got an exciting round coming up, the NFC and AFC championships. We're going to preview that. We're going to talk last week's games, as well as cover some coaching hires and a few thoughts we have from the divisional round. Without further ado, let's get into it. Our first topic today, as always, is reviewing last week's games. We had 4 outstanding divisional round games, complete with some upsets. The first game was the Chiefs-Texans. Chiefs 24, Texans 14, a vintage game from Travis Kelce, a touchdown and 117 yards, eclipsing the 2,000-yard mark in the playoffs on his career, trailing only Jerry Rice. Michael, what did you see from the Chiefs games, from the Texans? Were you surprised that the Chiefs pulled this one out, as some people on social media were saying?
No. I think that this has been par for the course for the Chiefs all year. They win ugly, but they win. We kind of say to ourselves, well, they didn't play well on offense. You know, they only had one wide receiver that caught a pass all game. That was Xavier Worthy with 5 catches. They just figured it out. And Houston's never won in the divisional round. And I guess Texans come away from it thinking, like, what do we have to do to get past the Chiefs? Just like everybody else seems to come away from that game thinking.
Yeah, it's got to be rough being a non-Chief in the playoffs. Our shocking game of the weekend, of course, was the Commanders 45, Lions 31. Jaden Daniels looking like not a rookie out there, 299 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, adding 51 on the ground, and Jared Goff with 3 interceptions, somewhat uncharacteristic of him in recent years, sort of the calm, collected guy out there. Their rushing attack, Jahmyr Gibbs was able to get going, but I saw just way too many mistakes out there. Do you agree? Is there any key I'm missing from that game?
No, to me, it's pretty shocking when a team can run for 201 yards, have 500 yards of total offense, and find a way to lose a playoff game. This is a really tough loss for the Lions, considering their history. This is the best season they've ever had. But I was so impressed with the efficiency of Washington's offense, the big play, the opportunistic defense that they had. And now Jaden Daniels gets a chance to do what 5 other rookie quarterbacks have failed to do, which is win a conference championship game.
I somewhat see it happening. And we will touch more on some of the calls in the Lions game and dig a little deeper into what led to that meltdown, not just on defense, but sort of as a whole. Third game, we had Philadelphia 28, Rams 22, a game where I picked the Rams to pull off that upset. Unfortunately, the Rams defense for the second time this season was unable to stop the Eagles on the ground. We had Barkley with 205 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. Of course, a lot of that came from a 62 and a 78-yard touchdown run, as well as Jalen Hurts breaking loose for 44 yards for a touchdown. We saw earlier in the year, like I said, the Rams trying to stop the run at the line of scrimmage, just allowing Saquon Barkley to get out in the open field and use his athleticism and elusiveness and strength to break free. Outside of that, what did you see in this game?
You know, I saw 2 defenses that were able to bring a lot of pressure to the quarterback, but unfortunately one defense that couldn't stop the run, and that was the Rams. But, you know, L.A. got 7 sacks on Jalen Hurts. This is the second postseason game in a row that he was, under 150 yards passing. So to say that Philadelphia has relied on its defense and run game in the playoffs seems to be an understatement. But the and also I was very impressed that the Rams did not go away after that long Barkley run. They're down 13 with 4 minutes to go. They had a chance to win the game at the very end. They got down deep, and Philadelphia, I think, was actually lucky to hang on.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, it is okay sometimes to rely on the run game and the defense when both are outstanding, possibly the best in the league. Though, in the upcoming game, they're going to have to get a little more going through the air, I fear. Down to the biggest game of the week. All eyes were on Buffalo-Baltimore. Who gets to join the Chiefs in the Arrowhead Invitational? It seems every year we're doing this, other than last year. The big story, other than the Bills winning by 2, was, of course, Mark Andrews' drop in the end zone on a 2-point conversion, along with 2 drops and a fumble after only dropping 4 passes all year. Mike, with the last 30 seconds, do you have anything to add? Baltimore Bills, what did you see?
I would need more than 30 seconds as a Ravens fan, but I will say that you can't go on the road against a really good football team, turn it over 3 times, and still expect to win. But to the Ravens' credit and how talented they are, they still had a chance to win at the end of the game. I just would have liked to have seen more Derrick Henry, only 16 carries for 84 yards. It just seems like it takes him a little while to get on track, but you've got to ride him at this time of year. And just credit to the Bills. They made the plays when they had to.
Absolutely. And we're going to talk, like I said, more about some of those Derrick Henry or lack of calling his number in big moments in our next segment. Our second segment is something I'm fondly calling dumbass play calls. There were just a few play calls in these divisional games that caught my eye. Some where you just kind of were scratching your head. Some where you were saying, what the hell were they thinking there? Starting off with the Texans in the fourth quarter with just under 10 minutes on the clock. 4th and 10, going for it. They call a pass play. Obviously, you need 10 yards, but they allow a 20-yard sack that gave the Chiefs the ball back inside their own or inside the Texans' 40-yard line. Fortunately for the Texans, they were able to 3-and-out the Chiefs there. However, that ate up quite a bit of clock and put the Texans back in a position without good field position, whereas they could have just punted the ball away, stopped the Chiefs, gotten the ball right back on the 50 or so. Michael, did you tune into that play, and what do you think? What would you have called in that spot?
Yeah, I would have kicked it away too. I think we were talking about this before we went on here, but the reliance on these analytics, this sort of push to see every team go for it on 4th down. We're getting away from kind of traditional football, and there's a reason that it was traditional for a while. And again, Houston was able to they bailed itself out by making a stop, but doesn't mean that it was the right call. You had a quarterback that was under pressure the whole game. That's not the situation where I think you go for it.
Absolutely. On to the Lions game. We saw Ben Johnson empty out the bag in terms of trick plays. Some worked. You had some fake end arounds. You had them get Amon-Ra St. Brown involved in the running game. You had David Montgomery get involved in the passing game with a little shovel pass that broke one for 20-plus yards in the red zone. You had Teddy Bridgewater come into the game and throw a pass. But what everyone's talking around about, of course, is the trick play they called on 4th down late in the game. I've got it written down here, piece by piece. So they ran the fake end around, got it to Williams. He throws one up. The Commanders sniff it out. They intercept it. They then score on that drive to go up 17. So it was just, in my opinion, it was too much. A trick play where you've got to do a fake handoff to a flip, to a lateral, to a pass. All that going on. The defense just says, let's just stay home. They're doing all this behind the line of scrimmage. Something's cooking up here. They get to the open receiver. They had 3 guys there on St. Brown when Williams put that pass up. And my takeaway is trying to take the offense away from Jared Goff. Granted, he had thrown 3 interceptions in the game, but this is the guy that you sort of put your whole season on. You traded for him. You planned to build around him. And when it got to the point where he had a chance to sort of redeem himself for a few mistakes earlier in the game, you put the ball in the hands of a wide receiver to make that pass. Were you entertained by it? Did you think it was smart? Were you left sort of wondering what the hell was going on? I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I thought that was a terribly timed trick play because remember earlier in the game they ran an end around with Jameson Williams. He broke it for 61 yards and a touchdown got him to within 3
Beautiful
points. You have to think that with a quarterback, one of the hardest parts about being a quarterback is making good decisions. So if you put the ball in the hands of a wide receiver to make a play, he's out there to make a play. He's not thinking, okay, if I get double coverage, triple coverage, I throw it away. I mean, the play is designed, like his role in that play is to throw the ball. So you put that level of risk in there that if the coverage is not what you thought it was going to be, that Williams forces that ball. And down by 10, and again, like you said, I mean, Jared Goff was dealing with the turnovers all game, but you got to trust that he's going to bring him back. I mean, the Lions offense ran up over 500 yards. It's not like they weren't capable of getting the ball down the field. I thought it's a shame that I hope that that's not what Lions fans remember Ben Johnson for, because he was amazing for them over his tenure in Detroit, and now he goes in the division to Chicago. But I just thought, given where they were in the game, given the level of urgency on that drive, a terrible time to put the ball in the hands of your wide receiver and tell him to go make a great pass.
And with the 25 seconds we have left on the topic, Michael, you're going to have just a moment. When the Ravens neglected to hand the ball to Derrick Henry for a 2-point conversion, which is a distance he is able to get almost every time he touches the ball. 10 seconds, what were your thoughts?
My thoughts is earlier this year against Pittsburgh, they had a chance to tie it in a 2-point conversion. They didn't run it with Henry. They had 2-point conversions in this game. They didn't run it with Henry. They shouldn't have gone for 2. They still had 16 minutes left, would have cut it to 1 point. Then they wouldn't have had to go for 2 later. Again, Harbaugh, analytics, way too reliant on it. I said to myself before the Ravens got the tying touchdown, I don't care if Buffalo puts 11 guys at the line of scrimmage. You give the ball to Henry. They didn't do it. Don't know why.
I agree. So with that, we're going to move on to our segment on coaching hires. Our third segment of the show is new coaching hires. Although we are still focusing on the upcoming conference championships and Super Bowl, a lot of teams who are already out of it are hard at work planning for next season. So I'm going to run through the 5 major coaching hires so far. Then I'm going to turn it over to Michael, let him give me some of his takes on this. Starting off with the Bears, Ben Johnson coming from Detroit, where he utilized 2 outstanding running backs, almost every game to guide the offense. Going to a Bears team that sort of lacks that workhorse, lacks that kind of already built up rushing attack. I think he will struggle a little bit there, as well as Caleb Williams going in to a new system, and then in his second year, a new system. I think that will take some time, but I hope the Bears give Ben Johnson time to build that team up. Next up is the Patriots, going with what I think is the most obvious pick, Mike Vrabel. He's an old school guy for an old school franchise, and I think his first task is going to be to make the offense easier for Drake May by focusing on the running game like he did in Tennessee. Following is Aaron Glenn. He's a defensive head coach. The Jets fired a defensive-minded head coach already this year in Robert Saleh. All the talent is already there on the defensive side of the ball. I'm excited to see what he can do. However, if I was a head coach, the Jets job would very likely be my last choice if I had a choice in the matter. Fourth, Brian Schottenheimer staying in Dallas, taking over the role of the head coach. Obviously, you guys talk about this on the Chaotically Intolerant podcast all of the time. All they want over there is a yes man who is going to do whatever ownership says, and I think Schottenheimer is that guy for them. Fifth is the coach that I thought would be a great fit in Dallas, Pete Carroll, heading over to the Raiders. And the way I look at this is the Raiders could have taken a young, exciting, offensive-minded head coach. They could have pulled somebody from the college ranks. They could have gone with a young defensive coordinator who's already got the system built up to stop the modern game, high-caliber passing offenses. Instead, they went with kind of the old dog. What I was saying to you off the pod here was it's like you and your girlfriend or wife are arguing about where to go to dinner. A new steakhouse opened up. You've got a kind of exciting Asian fusion restaurant down the street. And instead, you pick to go to Applebee's for half-off apps. Pete Carroll kind of reminds me of like the Applebee's of head coaches right now. You know what you're getting from him. He's safe, but I don't think he's the guy to lead the Raiders to the promised land. Mike, my question for you, what is your favorite coaching hire? What is your least favorite coaching hire? And which hire just made you go, okay, I'll turn it over to you?
I like Mike Vrabel. Mentioned he's kind of the obvious choice. So I think right now the Patriots need kind of a culture set, like a new culture. And Mike Vrabel obviously did a great job of kind of putting his stamp on the Titans, bringing a physical, a hard-nosed attitude. And he mentioned one of the first things he mentioned in his press conference was kind of getting rid of a sense of entitlement with the Patriots. So I really like that hire and a guy that, maybe has his franchise quarterback to work with in New England, which he really didn't have in Tennessee. He may do with Ryan Tannehill and didn't really work out with Will Levis. So I like that one the most. My coach, Ooh, I would say Pete Carroll because I don't really know what to expect. I mean, they tried the unproven coach with Antonio Pierce. They gave him a shot. It didn't work out. I think it's kind of a, like you said, a very safe choice. But to go with the oldest head coach in NFL history, I guess Tom Brady, who's a part of ownership, he's figured, hey, Belichick was fine in his later years. Let's bring in a guy who's a little more, who's experienced certainly, but it's all going to come down to the quarterback. And I've seen rumblings that maybe they bring in Russell Wilson as a stopgap because he has familiarity with Carroll's system. And I would say the least exciting or kind of the just I don't really get it is Schottenheimer. I mean, I get it in the sense that this is what Jerry Jones does. He goes with the most kind of like the least threatening coach. And I don't know how any coach is going to succeed in Dallas with Jerry Jones. I mean, he's the impediment to success. So unless Brian Schottenheimer has something really up his sleeve, look, his dad was a really good head coach in the NFL. Marty Schottenheimer had a really good career coaching, the Chiefs, the Chargers, implementing his style of football. But again, I don't know if Schottenheimer has the personality to really take over and say, boy, I'm going to put my stamp on the Cowboys, because I don't know if Jerry Jones is going to let him. So I just don't love that hire. I would have loved to have seen Deion Sanders. I mean, you talk about the Cowboys being a source of entertainment. How fun would that have been?
Oh yeah, and he could have drafted his kid.
Yeah.
That was his first. Would have been his first priority, is to keep coaching his kid.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Deion stays in Colorado for another year or two, proves that he can coach without just coaching his family and his kids' friends, and then have a chance to sort of go and do his own thing somewhere in the NFL. I don't think this was the year for Deion. However, the year is coming. We are going to see Deion Sanders coaching in the NFL at some point. Our last segment, as always, is picking the games. Normally, we're picking 14 or 15 games every week. However, we are down to 2. The final 4 teams. Mike, instead of just one of us picking the games, the other reading, I think with the time we've got, we can both pick both games. I will start it off with you in the NFC Championship. The Eagles, 6-point favorites over the Washington Commanders, coming off one of the biggest playoff upsets in recent memory. Mike, who are you taking? And if you would, give me general range of a score you think this game could fall into.
If I'm betting on the game, I'm definitely taking the points with the Commanders. I think that they've proven they're not going to go away, and the Eagles have proven that they're not going to blow anybody out, especially with Jalen Hurts dealing with a knee injury. So badly do I want to take the Commanders to win the game, but I still think Philadelphia has the formula for success. I think they just need to get a little more out of Jalen Hurts. He needs to be effective in the pocket. I just have a hard time seeing the Commanders being able to slow Saquon Barkley. They're susceptible to big plays given up in the run game. And I think there's a reason why rookie quarterbacks have never been able to win on this stage, because you have had 5 previous rookie quarterbacks who all had top 3 scoring defenses. Jaden Daniels doesn't have that. Now, I think the Eagles want to prove that maybe that they only lost that previous meeting because Jalen Hurts went out. They had a couple plays that they could have made to seal the game. I think we're looking at a game kind of in the low to mid 20s, kind of like maybe a 26-23. So again, I would take the points with the Commanders. I just think the Eagles are a little bit better of a football team, and it's just so hard for a rookie quarterback to go on the road. And again, think about how flawlessly the Commanders played last week. Really hard to continue that because they got a Detroit defense that was really banged up with injuries. Not to take anything away from Washington. I just think it's going to be a different style of game against Philadelphia.
So everything you said was facts. You're absolutely correct on everything. However, I think football doesn't care about facts. I'm taking the Commanders, and I'm taking it as kind of a wild game. The Eagles do something that we don't expect. Jalen Hurts maybe throws an interception or two, and we are just shocked. Maybe Jaden Daniels maybe Brian Robinson has a big game. I just feel like at this point, they're sort of the team of destiny, and personally, I'm not ready for this run to be over. So I'm doing some mental gymnastics here, trying to convince myself that Washington can win this game, because I have the Super Bowl matchup I want already in my head, which, segueing into the AFC Championship, would be a Washington Chiefs Super Bowl. Chiefs favored by 2.5, and since I am the resident Chief, I will pick first. I'm taking the Chiefs something like 31-24. Some of these games, Chiefs Bills, have gone down to the wire in recent years. We all remember the 13-second drive by Kansas City. We remember the Tyler Bass missed field goal last year. I think the Chiefs control this game a little bit better. Our defense is obviously one of the best in the league. Sometimes gets slightly overlooked because so much of the attention is on Patrick Mahomes. But I really think we can slow Buffalo down. I don't think they do anything exceptionally well. They're a really strong running team. Josh Allen is a great quarterback. But where do they go other than just Josh Allen when it comes time for something big? And I think that Steve Spagnuolo is going to have this defense ready. And when it comes to playoff time, you've got vintage Travis, you've got Patrick Mahomes, and I think they just get the job done. And it's very difficult to beat a really good team twice in the same season. Remember, Buffalo took our meeting in Buffalo earlier in the year. So, Michael, with the 50 seconds we have left, take it over, finish us off. What do you got?
Peyton Manning eventually beat Tom Brady. Steve Young eventually beat Troy Aikman. I think Josh Allen eventually beats Patrick Mahomes. If the Chiefs lose this game, it'll be like every 3 years at home they lose twice to the same team and lose the AFC Championship game. Buffalo's the only team to top 27 points against, not including that last game of the year, but 27 points against the Chiefs since Super Bowl 57. I think for the reason you just said about Buffalo being balanced, I actually think that gives them a chance against the Chiefs. The Chiefs haven't scored 31 points all year. I think eventually those offensive shortcomings get exposed. I'm taking the Bills 28-24. I think they finally get over the hump. But, look, it's Kansas City. I always have a hard time picking against them, but I think Buffalo just has a little bit more firepower than they've had in years past. They have that balance. And Josh Allen, look, they haven't lost those games because of Josh Allen for the most part. I think he does get it done this time.
All right. Well, you know what? I won't hold that against you because we're professionals here.
Yeah.
Everybody has their opinion, and I am extremely grateful to you for coming on the show this week. Everybody, please go check out Michael on draftamerica.com. He runs podcasts. He works with us over at Chaotically Intolerant. You are the regular co-host on the Chaotically Intolerant podcast with our producer, Alex. You are on Instagram, YouTube. You're on X/Twitter. Guys, please go check him out. He's got some great insight as far as stats, just knowing the game inside and out. There's nobody better. Michael, once again, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed yourself. Anything to add as we're heading out?
No, John, I really had a good time. Thank you so much for having me on. I just cannot wait to see these games. This is one of the few championship weekends where I could legitimately see all four teams winning. And so we don't always get that. So I think this is going to be a fantastic championship weekend. And I can't wait to break down the games next week.
Absolutely. And I believe I'm going to be joining you guys on the Chaotically Intolerant podcast for the Super Bowl preview. So we'll get to hang out a little bit again. Guys, check that out as well. As always, guys, thank you for watching. We will see you next time. Go Chiefs.